Holly Lynn Bobo was born on October 12, 1990, in Darden, Tennessee, a tiny, quiet town with only a few hundred residents. Surrounded by forests and creeks, Darden was a close-knit place where life moved slowly. Holly lived there with her parents and older brother, and the family spent much of their free time outdoors, hiking, fishing, and swimming in the local streams. Holly had a love for singing and was an active member of her church. After graduating high school, she decided to pursue nursing and enrolled at the University of Tennessee's nearby campus. By 2011, the 20-year-old was focused on her studies and building a future with her longtime boyfriend, whom she'd been dating since high school. She still lived at home. Her university was only a short drive away, and the house, built by her father, held deep meaning for the family. There was no reason to move out just yet. On the morning of April 13, 2011, Holly was up by 4:30 a.m. to get ready for class. A few hours later, her parents left for work, while her brother was still asleep in his room. Around 7:30 a.m., her boyfriend called to let her know he'd be hunting that day on land owned by Holly's grandmother. They spoke briefly, and Holly mentioned she'd be leaving for class soon. Not long after, a neighbor preparing to leave for work heard a piercing scream coming from the direction of the Bobo house. Alarmed, he ran back inside and told his mother, who immediately called Holly's mom. Unable to reach her daughter by phone, Holly's mother left work and began driving home, worried something had gone wrong. Back at the Bobo house, Holly's brother, still unaware of the scream, was woken by the family dog barking frantically in the backyard. Curious, he looked outside. Through the window, he saw Holly in the garage with a man in camouflage standing beside her. The man's face wasn't visible, and assuming it was her boyfriend, he didn't think much of it. After all, he knew about the hunting plans. But something felt off. Holly's voice sounded strained, like she was upset. The brother called his mom to ask if Holly had invited her boyfriend over, but her response was urgent and panicked. "That's not her boyfriend," she said. "Get a gun and shoot him." Stunned, he asked if she was serious. She said yes, and hung up. When he looked back outside, Holly was being led toward the woods by the man in camouflage. He now noticed the man was taller and broader than Holly's boyfriend. Alarmed, he called out to Holly and tried to reach her by phone. No answer. He also tried calling her boyfriend, but got no response. Meanwhile, their mother had already called 911. But because she was in another county, the call was routed to a different dispatch center. Moments later, her son called her again to report what he had just seen: Holly disappearing into the trees, hand in hand with the unknown man. He grabbed his gun and ran outside, but by then, they were gone. Then he saw the blood. There were splatters inside the garage, clear evidence that something violent had happened. He called the police. Officers arrived within minutes, but it was already too late. Holly was gone. Her brother described the man: camouflage clothing, a cap, long dark hair down his back, and a deep voice. But he hadn't seen his face. Despite the urgency, police didn't immediately treat the scene as a crime. The local department had little experience with cases like this. In those first critical hours, they failed to secure the house or garage, didn't canvass the woods, and made no effort to interview neighbors. When Holly's parents returned home, they were devastated to see how little was being done. After pleading with officers to take the case seriously, a proper investigation finally began. The woods were searched, neighbors questioned, and forensic experts brought in to test the blood found at the scene. Investigators quickly confirmed that Holly's boyfriend wasn't involved. He didn't match the man's appearance, and his alibi checked out. He had indeed been out hunting at the time Holly vanished. But Holly was still missing. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Your support means a lot to us and helps us grow. A huge thank you to everyone who's been watching. With no trace of Holly Bobo in the woods, investigators turned to her phone records. GPS data revealed that her phone had traveled north for about 30 minutes before reversing course. The final ping came from a wooded area just a few hundred yards from her home. Then, silence. The phone was turned off. When officers searched that area, they found the phone. Its SIM card had been removed, but there was still no sign of Holly. The discovery raised more questions than answers. Over the following days, a strange pattern emerged. Holly's belongings began to appear across the town. Her lunch container on a roadside, a receipt bearing her name, her school ID, one item at a time, scattered in random places. Whether Holly had dropped them or her abductor was deliberately leaving a trail, no one knew. Desperate for leads, investigators began reviewing the local registry of known offenders. Their attention soon focused on a man named Terry, an individual with multiple assault charges and a disturbing pattern. His past victims bore a strong resemblance to Holly, both in age and appearance. He also matched the description given by Holly's brother: tall, broad, wearing camouflage. Police obtained a warrant and searched Terry's home, but found nothing linking him to the crime. A wiretap on his phone yielded no incriminating evidence either. The lead fizzled. Meanwhile, search efforts grew, drawing in more volunteers each week. Yet despite the massive operation, not a single trace of Holly was found. As months passed without progress, the ground search was officially called off. Investigators shifted focus to working through a growing list of suspects. But still, nothing. No breakthrough, no closure. Holly's family was left in anguish. They blamed the local authorities for mishandling the case from the start. Looking back, they realized the police had failed to act in the first 72 hours, the most critical window in any missing person investigation. By the time the case gained momentum, it was already slipping away. Then, nearly 3 years later, a twist. In March 2014, a man named Dylan, well known to police for his involvement in drugs, was arrested for illegal firearm possession. During questioning, he made an unexpected claim. He had seen Holly Bobo alive after her abduction. According to Dylan, on the day Holly vanished, he went to his brother Zach's house to pick up a car. Inside, he found Zach, their friend Jason, and, shockingly, Holly. She was sitting in a chair, visibly terrified. Dylan said Zach confessed to kidnapping her, sexually assaulting her, and even recording it. Dylan insisted he had no part in what happened next, but claimed Holly had been killed shortly afterward. He also noted that Zach was wearing camouflage that day. Police brought in Zach and Jason for questioning. Both denied everything. Searches of their homes and digital devices revealed no video, no evidence, and no trace of Holly. Then came another lead. A woman contacted investigators with a disturbing story. She said she had once lived with a man named Jeffrey. One day, Jeffrey showed her a video of a man sexually assaulting a young woman. He told her it was Holly Bobo, and that the man in the footage was Zach. According to her, the recording had been filmed by Jeffrey's own brother, Mark. Police arranged for the woman to call Jeffrey while they recorded the conversation. During the call, she brought up the video. His responses convinced detectives that he had, in fact, shown it to her. Jeffrey and Mark were both arrested soon after, but once in custody, they denied everything. When confronted with the recording of the phone call, Jeffrey offered an explanation. He misunderstood the question. His ex-wife's name was also Holly, he claimed. Perhaps that was the confusion. Police searched their homes and seized their electronics, but again, found nothing. No video. No connection to the other suspects. With no physical evidence and only hearsay to rely on, prosecutors had no choice but to release them. And once again, the case slipped back into silence. As investigators worked to map the connections between Zach and the other suspects, a new name surfaced: Shane. Phone records showed he had been in contact with Zach on the day Holly vanished. Suspecting Shane may have helped dispose of the body, detectives brought him in for questioning. During the interrogation, Shane admitted he knew where Holly's remains were hidden. In exchange for full immunity, he agreed to lead investigators to her body and testify against those involved. But when the time came, he couldn't locate the site. The deal was revoked. Then, in September 2014, an unexpected discovery changed everything. A group of hunters, trekking through the woods about 19 miles from Holly's home, stumbled across a large bucket hidden in the brush. One man flipped it over and found a human skull inside. Forensic teams arrived quickly. Partial remains were recovered and sent to the lab. Investigators immediately suspected they belonged to Holly, and dental records soon confirmed it. She had been out in the woods for 3 years, making it nearly impossible to reconstruct what had happened. But one detail was clear: a bullet hole in the skull. Holly Bobo had been murdered. With the case now officially classified as a homicide, detectives circled back to their main suspects: Zach, his brother Dylan, their friend Jason, and Shane. They started with Jason. Brought in for questioning, he denied everything, until police warned him he could be facing life in prison. At that point, Jason agreed to talk. According to his confession, he had gone to Zach's house that day to buy drugs. Zach, Dylan, and Shane were all there. Jason claimed they told him Holly was already dead, and that they needed help getting rid of the body. Zach opened the trunk to reveal Holly wrapped in a blanket. Jason said that while Shane burned Holly's belongings in a barrel, Zach and Jason drove to the Tennessee River Bridge to dispose of the body. But when they pulled her from the trunk, they realized Holly was still alive. Zach shot her on the spot. Fearing someone may have heard the gunfire, Zach loaded the body back into the car and drove away, dropping Jason off along the way. Later, he told Jason he had hidden the body in the woods, though not in the same location where she was eventually found. Jason's story about the abduction raised even more questions. He claimed the 3 men had originally gone to Holly's brother's house to teach him how to make illegal substances. While there, they ran into Holly. She got angry, yelled at them to leave, and threatened to report them. That's when they decided to abduct her. But the details didn't add up. Holly's brother denied ever discussing anything illegal with them. And when he saw Holly being led into the woods, he saw only one man, not 3. And that man matched Shane's description, not Zach's. Jason also said the group took Holly to an old barn owned by Shane's grandmother, where she was assaulted. That detail hit a chilling note. Some of Holly's personal items, including a check and her school ID, had been found less than 100 yards from Shane's house. Police gathered additional circumstantial evidence against Zach and his brother. Several neighbors reported seeing a white pickup truck speeding away from Holly's house around the time of her abduction. Zach drove a similar vehicle. Surveillance footage also placed his truck near the Bobo property. Zach's ex-girlfriend told police he had once threatened her, saying, "I'll tie you up like Holly and no one will ever see you again." Multiple witnesses later came forward to say Zach had either hinted at or directly confessed to being involved in Holly's disappearance. Detectives also uncovered threats Zach had made to his own brother. At one point, he warned Dylan that if he cooperated with police, he'd end up in a hole right next to Holly. One more tip came from a local resident who claimed that, after Holly's murder, Shane and Zach had offered him a gun in exchange for illegal substances. He took the deal and later threw the gun into a nearby body of water. Police recovered the weapon, but it held no fingerprints or DNA to tie it to the crime. As prosecutors prepared for trial, another shocking development halted their momentum. Shane, who had once claimed to know where Holly's remains were buried, was found dead in a hotel room. Authorities ruled it a suicide. His lawyer blamed investigators, claiming they had threatened Shane with a lengthy prison sentence, pushing him over the edge. The case, already filled with dead ends, now had one less voice. The trials of Holly Bobo's suspected killers began 6 years after her disappearance, starting with Zach Adams. His trial opened in September 2017. Though he pleaded not guilty, Jason's testimony and the accumulation of circumstantial evidence weighed heavily against him. After several weeks of testimony, the jury returned a verdict: guilty of murder. Zach was sentenced to life in prison, plus 2 additional 25-year terms for kidnapping and assault. The following January, Dylan Adams faced trial. He opted for a plea deal, admitting to aiding in Holly's kidnapping and murder. The deal didn't require him to testify or offer specific details, but he was sentenced to 35 years with no possibility of parole. Jason, who had cooperated with authorities, received a significantly lighter sentence, 8 years with the possibility of early release. With all 3 men behind bars, the case was officially closed. But unanswered questions lingered. No hard evidence ever connected the suspects to the abduction. No fingerprints, no DNA, nothing to prove Holly had ever been in Zach's car or home. The entire case rested on testimony and circumstance. Defense attorneys claimed the story was built on lies, coerced confessions, and desperation. They argued that police pressured Dylan into making a false statement, then used the same tactics on Jason. And the inconsistencies between their stories didn't help. Dylan originally said he went to Zach's house to pick up a car and saw both Holly and Jason there. But Jason claimed he arrived after Holly's body had already been placed in the trunk and accused Dylan of being part of the abduction. Another detail complicated the case further. Holly's brother had described the man who led her into the woods: tall, broad, long, dark hair. Among the suspects, only Shane matched the build, but he had short, light hair. It didn't add up. A former TBI agent later revealed that investigators had pulled cell tower data to determine the suspects' locations. None of their phones appeared to be near Holly's home that morning. However, because cell data only gives general estimates within large areas, the results weren't definitive. One more mystery remained: a palm print found on Holly's car. It didn't belong to her, her family, or any friends. Police checked it against all 4 suspects. No matches. Zach's defense attorney argued that a better suspect had been overlooked from the beginning: Terry Britt. Britt had a long history of assaulting women and lived in the area. He was investigated early in the case. Police searched his home, monitored his phone, but never found anything conclusive. Terry's alibi came from his wife, who claimed he was home installing a bathtub that morning. But the defense challenged that, arguing she had actually been at work and that Terry had called her there. When police followed up with the hardware store where he allegedly purchased the tub, they found no record of the sale. Suspicion deepened. Terry reportedly cut his long, dark hair shortly after Holly vanished. The defense attorney even suggested that Terry's wife might have helped cover for him, or possibly assisted in the crime itself. And while experts ruled out the palm print for everyone else, they couldn't definitively rule out Terry. It remained a possible, but unconfirmed, match. Despite these doubts, the prosecution stood firm. The suspects, they argued, were guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Too many factors pointed in their direction. Jason served just 3 years before being released on early parole. But only months later, he was arrested again, this time on weapons charges. While awaiting trial, he made a startling statement. In early 2024, Jason recanted his entire testimony. He claimed he had never seen Holly that day. He had fabricated the story to avoid a life sentence, striking a deal with prosecutors out of fear. Zach Adams quickly filed a motion for a new trial. But in September 2024, the judge denied it. Jason's reversal, the court said, wasn't enough to override the other evidence presented at trial. There was another wrinkle. Jason's recantation came just weeks before his sentencing on the weapons charge. A month before the judge ruled on Zach's appeal, Jason was handed a 19-year prison sentence. The timing raised eyebrows. Was he trying to sway the court and lighten his own punishment? Today, all 3 men remain behind bars. Unless new, concrete evidence surfaces, something stronger than retracted statements or speculation, a retrial remains out of reach. And for now, prosecutors continue to insist they got the right men. Share your thoughts on this story in the comment section. And don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching.